Welcome to the blind battle of the Wellers. I'm your host Sam, and this is Whiskey and SV. All right, it's going to be an exciting one tonight. We have here with us some of the BTAC Tater line, the Weller Weeded Bourbons, and they are notoriously hard to find. And I actually only have two full bottles available to me. The one that's I also have a sample of another one, but let me just tell you a little bit about this line. So basically, it's the weeded um, version of it's a weeded line from Buffalo Trace, and the reason why it got like so expensive is because apparently the most expensive bourbon of all, the Pappy Van Winkle line, is a wheated bourbon. So when people found out that there's a cheaper one that's basically the same mash bill, then these also became super hard to find. In fact, anything from Buffalo Trace is just notoriously very hard to find. And there's like a bunch in the range. I don't have any of the high end ones. I've tried them in bars. I have to say I wasn't like super impressed by any in particular. Some of the 107 picks, in my opinion, have been like my favorite, especially bang for the buck. But there's basically in the range. The cheapest one is the Weller Special Reserve, which I have here. This one is around 25 bucks MSRP. Of course, when if you find it at MSRP, it usually goes very, very quickly. So you can probably find it at around more like 40 or 50 bucks all the time, at least in California. I see my friends post stuff from Texas, and it just sits on shelf in Texas for that price. And this is actually one of my least favorite bourbons in my collection. I never find myself wanting to drink this. And yeah, I mean, other than for getting drunk, which I don't really try to do these days, I just don't think of this as a very good bourbon, to be honest. The second one that I have tonight, in fact, unfortunately, I don't have a full bottle. Is this? It's the Weller 107. So it's called the Weller Antique. What's it called? Well, Old Weller Antique 107. And usually, I think it's a kind of a reddish pink kind of bottle. I'll put a picture somewhere, maybe this side. I think the bang for the buck. This one, I think the MSRP on it is around like 50 bucks. Of course, again, when it shows up at 50 bucks at Total Wine every once in a while, it sells out almost straight away. Like I remember, like a couple of weeks ago, one of my friends in our whiskey group sent a picture saying, "I just bought this," and it's always limit one, by the way. And I drove there in like 20 minutes, like probably faster than I should have. And by the time I got there, I just saw that some guy picked the last one. Yeah, they're just very. You got to get very lucky to get it at MSRP. So you can probably find it in secondary more like for around 100, 110 bucks. And often there are picks. If there's a store pick, those tend to be much better than the ones that you get regularly on shelf. And that's one of the few, maybe it's just I got lucky with the picks that I've tried, but I tried them in, for example, a couple of friends gave me some samples, and then I tried it at a bar in San Francisco, and I really like the picks. Okay, and then next in the line we have the Weller Foolproof. I think this one is also the MSRP on it is not supposed to be very high. I think it's in the order of like 50, 60 bucks. And But in reality, the secondary price is more like $250, $300. And they usually try to sell you in a usually try to sell you this in like a bundle with a bunch of crap you don't need. So it's kind of annoying. We actually got this in a bundle as well with my group. This one is from Deep Liquor, which I think is in, actually, I don't know where it is. I think it's Santa Rosa, maybe. I'm not sure. Anyways, so yeah, we basically got like some Fireball and other crap that like I just like basically didn't even bother taking those. I just gave them away to my friends. Yeah, so again, like the secondary on this is probably double the 107, and the MSRP is on par, a little bit more maybe. The proof on this is 114, which is 57%. The proof on this one is 90 or 45%. This is 107, so I'm assuming that it's also 107. The proof is 107, but I'm not sure. Okay, so The other ones that I don't have here, so I'm not gonna like dwell too much on them. But there's like a CYPB, Create Your Perfect Bourbon. That one is, again, the MSRP is supposed to be around 70, $80, or maybe even less, but it sells for like $400 or $500. And then there's a 12-year-old, I think, which is also low proof. That one is all of these are supposed to be MSRP like less than 100, but somehow, yeah, well, because of the reputation, they're like ridiculously, basically expensive prices. So the ones that I don't have here, I'm not going to talk too much about. There's also a single barrel which I've tried in a bar before. That was a pick. Shout out to Neil from Westwood bar in San Francisco. And yeah, I mean, it was fine, but not worth $600 or whatever it is they charge for it in secondary. Okay, so let's quickly pour some samples. As usual, I'm gonna use the Black and Cairns this time because um, these are different enough in color that I don't want to, I don't want to by mistake like know what they are. So I'm gonna give like the number one to the foolproof, number two to the 107, and the number three to Weller Special Reserve. Of course, it's not going to be like a true blind in some ways for because the Special Reserve is much lower proof. Um, but yeah, I already know that I really don't like the Special Reserve anyway. So and Special Reserve, it is not special and it's not reserved. So I don't know why the name. And you would think that they should have a better name for something that's so. This one is even like a screw top. I mean, I have nothing against screw top. A bunch of really high-end Japanese whiskeys have screw tops, but this just, yeah, there's nothing fancy about this bottle at all. It's uh, I don't understand why it's allocated really. So I'm really excited to know which one of these really is better. I think in my mind and based on non-blind tastings that I've done in the past, I think the Weller Antique 107 is the best bang for the buck. Specifically, if you can get your hands on a pick. I was honestly not very pleased with the fresh crack Weller proof, full proof that I had. I have had another pick before, and again, that didn't really blow my mind either. I thought maybe I have an issue with weeded bourbons, but well, it's not clear. I mean, I think um, uh, if we're talking about, for example, Heaven Hill Distillery, between their Larceny line and their Elijah Craig line, Larceny is the weeded one, and Elijah Craig is the rye one. I definitely prefer the Elijah Craig. So uh, there's something to be said there. I don't know. Starting with this one first. Ooh, that is strong. So there's so one nosing technique that I've learned is like not to like take only through your nose when you're nosing something. You gotta like kind of breathe, just have an open mouth and breathe in, and don't really try to like take everything through your nose because otherwise you can get burned, especially with like high alcohol content stuff. So I'm pretty sure this is not a special reserve because that's only 45%. There's probably either the this one which is 114 proof or the 107 that's I think is 107 proof. Okay. So it's got a beautiful nose, and I remember when I tasted the full proof, I really like the nose. It's aromatic, brown sugar, that BTAC characteristic of kind of like lots of aromatic, somewhat chocolatey, fruity, caramel and vanilla. And yeah, okay. So let me. I don't want to. I don't want to taste anything until I've nosed every single one. Okay, let's go with this one. Much more muted, obviously much lower proof. Still kind of like a decent nose, right? I think I like the nose of wheated bourbons a lot more than the actual taste. Yeah. pretty sure this has got to be the special reserve because it's just much more muted and not high alcohol. Okay, let's try this last one. Okay, this one is also strong. Very similar to the first one. I get a bit more wood in this, to be honest. But very similar, like caramels and vanillas and aromatic kind of like perfumey notes. Okay. These Black Glencairns always put me off. The nose is kind of weird. I I think the first time I tried them, uh, I tried a Redbreast 21 in them, and I don't know. Every time I smell them, it reminds me of that Redbreast 21, tropical fruit note, but it's like very faint. Okay, so let's start tasting. I'm going to start by the one that I'm pretty sure is the special reserve, the middle one. Okay, let's go for the palate. Quite a bit of oak. Um, Not a bad taste actually. I remember not liking this when I first tried it because it had some weird bitterness to it. Um, but this has improved, I would say, since I tried it in the first couple of times I tried it. So it's you know nothing unexpected. Vanilla, caramel, um, brown sugar, well, some oak. There is some bitterness that comes out, unfortunately. Yeah, when you take a little bit of a bigger sip, after everything dies down, like the sweetness up front dies down, the oak like turns quite bitter. And I don't know if that's oak or if it's some weird like extract or something. It's just weird. Not bad though. It's definitely much better than I remember it. So okay, between these two, let me just nose them again. This is much more aromatic, I think. I prefer this nose. It's definitely like this is much more complex. It has more layers. The 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 aromas are more bold. So let's go for this on the palate first. Okay. So oh wow, excuse me. So it's quite spicy actually. Like after that initial sweet arrival, there's a wave of like baking kind of spices and like kind of like uh yeah, like spicy notes that come out. Yeah, quite there's some sharpness, there's some effervescent sharpness that goes up into my nose. um Not super pleasant, to be honest. Not bad though. It's I think the thing that I don't like about it is like when it after the you've swallowed it, there's a bitter note that develops, and I'm not a huge fan of that. um and it's much more pronounced in this actually. Okay, so let's try it. Let's try this one. It's a bit more muted nose, but still very nice. A lot less of those spicy flavors. Um, doesn't doesn't really have as much. It's still like got some spices, but not enough to go up through your nose and like cause issues. So, but it's also like pretty syrupy and nice. It's not. I think. Yeah, I think like it's not. It's not thin, right? It doesn't feel like it's thin. This definitely feels like it's a bit thin. There's still some bitterness there though. Yeah, I don't know what it is about these weeded recipes. There's always this like bitterness that comes out, and I think it's a bit more pronounced on this one actually. Hmm. Okay. Um, I wonder if I should add some water. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this one to see if it makes it any better. So I bet like half a milliliter. Oh, this nose is definitely by far the best nose though. It's yeah, there's no contest that the nose. I don't know if it's this, but whatever this is, I'm guessing it's the for proof. It's just such a great nose. Wow. The water made all the extra spiciness that was going through my nose go away. So that little bit of water um, definitely made a big difference to this. Still, some of those bitters linger. Definitely not as much as the other one. So yeah, this is also pretty nice. Okay, let me add some water to this to see if that makes a difference. Maybe it's the water that also helps with the reducing the bitterness a little bit. I think the water actually brought out the oak more in this, and yeah, there's like this almond bitterness at the end. Like if you've ever had a bitter almond or like some bitter stone fruit seeds, I really don't like that. Um, yeah, it's just very. This bitterness just takes over my entire mouth. I yeah, I don't like that at all. Now going back to this, which I'm pretty sure is a special reserve. It is. The nose is actually now kind of decent. But the experience now becomes a lot like this. I think these two experiences are very similar. Okay, final one of this. So I think so far, um, I would say this is the last, definitely. This is before adding water. It was second. After adding water, it's like kind of on par with this one. Not a big fan. Too much bitterness at the end. Um, and this, just the nose is so vibrant and nice. And with that water, I think like a lot of the harshness went away. So let me just take one more sip. That's a respectable experience. I think it doesn't have as much bitterness as those two for sure. Um, yeah, by far my favorite is this one. Okay, so there you have it. Let's do the reveals. So let's see. Did I get the Weller Special Reserve right? This should be number 3, and indeed it is number 3. Okay, good. So that was obvious. So this better be the 107, which is number 2. Yes, it is. Okay, so this is the number 2. So this particular Weller 107 was not good. I guess the picks that I had were much better, and this is now much better than it was on the Fresh Crack. So um, yeah, it's number 1, of course. Yeah, and yeah, that's surprising. I didn't think that a couple of well, maybe 3 or 4 days, it made a huge difference to this. It's actually like pretty enjoyable now. I have a couple of backups of this, and when I initially posted my Fresh Crack impression, I was thinking that I probably will just trade them away, but now I'm not so sure. The thing is, it's so expensive though, right? I mean, I think I ended up paying in order of 170-ish for them, you know, and I I think the secondary is around 250 to 300. So I don't know if it's a $250 to $300. You know, you can get some really high aged scotch for that, or you can get like really nice bourbons for that. I think and I mean it's nice, but it's not $250 nice. The only reason I paid a lot for it is also, by the way, is because like I didn't have any, so I just wanted some in my collection. And then secondly, I thought like worst case scenario, they're good trade pieces. If you know, if like I don't like it, I'm sure someone else would offer me something that I do like. Like, you know, bang for the buck. If I think about like Jack Daniels, any of the Jack Daniels, like, you know, high end, not high end, right, but like Jack Daniels, like single barrels, like single barrel bourbon, not bourbon, like Tennessee whiskey, or the rye, they are by far better than this in terms of experience. But it's just a very nice nose on this. Yeah, I think that went down the wrong pipe. Oh god. Okay, well there you have it. The Weller's full proof actually not as bad as I thought, and the Special Reserve and the 107 here are Definitely, as I thought, like too bitter at the end. I just they're not my go-tos at all in any way. So yeah, tune in next time for more, and hope you enjoyed this one. Take care.